So just I want to make sure it's not unfriendly. What they're proposing in this movie as a global warming overpopulation combination is all completely insane and impossible. Let's go with them on this. Let's pretend that any of this is possible. Let's see how this works out.
So we've got this murder. This rich guy is killed. And this is one of those good lines that comes up in this movie. Our hero, Thorn, Detective Thorn, played by Charlton Heston, he immediately figures out that this murder was an assassination that was staged to look like a burglary. And I love the way he delivers it. He's like, punks don't cave in guys' heads with meat hooks. Assassins cave in guys' heads with meat hooks to make it look like it was punks or something like that. The way he delivered and the way he put together this whole scene and figured out that there was more here than met the eye was just really good.
I love the most because you don't actually find that out until essentially the scene where he's doing all this is him just robbing this place blind. He walks in and he is stealing everything that's not nailed down in front of the people that live in the place because he's a cop and he can't.
Yeah, and because we live in this world of scarcity where this dude doesn't even have running water. He's never eaten strawberries or an apple or anything in his life. So now he's in this rich dude's apartment. This guy's got running water. This guy's got a piece of beef in the cooler, etc. So he's just walking through, stuffing shit in his pockets.
Well, he walks out with a pillowcase full of shit out of this dude's house. And as he's talking down to the bodyguard and the companion of the guy who owned the place.
Right. The female companion. He just takes all this stuff. And so you're thinking all right, this guy isn't actually doing his job. He's not interested in this case at all. He just wants to take shit. So later on, when he's being asked about what happened, he actually does have a grasp of the situation. He does have a theory developed. So he's good at his job. He's not an idiot. But it just gives you this nice picture of a character who's trying to survive in this world of scarcity, where he's going to do his job, but he's also going to look out for himself and kind of screw over anybody else who gets in the way. It's a very interesting dynamic, I think, within the character.
Well, you and I had decided it was interesting in that it's just a good example of we live in such a crappy world that this is the good guy. The best we can hope for is someone who's looking out for themselves, but is good at their job.
Yeah, he's got some kind of sense of justice, I think, because at one point, after he figures out that this is an assassination, him and his buddy, his old friend Saul, who's this old police bookkeeper who remembers what the world was like before, they're doing research on the murder victim and find out this guy was a director of the board on the Soylent Corporation. He was involved in all these other really important things. This guy was no slouch. He was really important.
Personal friends with the governor.
Right. He was friends with the governor. The governor had been over his house recently, etc., etc. They learn all of this stuff about this guy. And
so he in the story, he's done this study and he's talking to Saul about what he thinks. Brings Saul some books, which are the records of the oceanographic records of what's going on with Soylent. And
they do this research on the guy. They figure out what his deal is. Thorn understands now that this case is probably really important and relevant to stuff going on in the world. So the corporation, Soylent, gets with the police and basically shuts down the case. They're like, all right, don't look into this guy anymore. The case is closed. It was a burglary. Forget about it. So the cops, Thorn's superiors, try to get him off the case. And in that moment, he's like, no, I'm not closing the case. I'm going to keep on it. And they get into an argument. And so this is where we see that sense of continuance and resolve and justice is in the spirit of this Thorn guy. He could just say, I don't care. I already stole the guy's beef. I don't care who killed him or what. But he still goes forward anyway.
Well, and it's also should be noted that the movie like starts off with like what is the second scene? We know from the get go that of course the guy was assassinated. Like there's no mystery to us that he was assassinated. Like we literally watched the talks of the guy who had the assassination like set in motion. So when we see that guy having a conversation with the commissioner of the police station, we know exactly where this is going. So when Heston's character Thorn is told to not continue, there's no surprise to us. We know that's coming even before he does. The thing is the surprise is when he reacts the way he does. Because up until this point, we've watched him kind of be a crappy guy. And you don't expect him to, in any way, put himself out there and in a position of weakness. So it's interesting that his character would choose to do something he knows puts himself in danger in a world where, everything is out to get his.
Yeah, he seems at the beginning like a very much like a it's not my problem kind of guy, like he just wants to kind of get by with blinders on. But for whatever reason, something about this case hits him and he feels the need to keep digging. And that's that kind of like archetypal human thing that I think this movie captures so well.
And we can take this back because there's some interesting power elements in this. So at a point in the movie, he's not happy with the information he's gotten from the companion who's lived with the victim of the movie. And so he goes to visit her again. And when he gets there, he finds basically all of the other companions of the men in this building kind of having like a party at her place. And he walks in there clearly with the expectation that he's going to sleep with this woman. And then, that just happens because basically, as we gather, these women exist only as sexual companions to the men that live in these apartments. And the girl's like, well, we're going to have a new tenant in a couple days, and I don't know how that's going to go. I've always kind of lived here, but I don't think the next guy's going to be as good as that, the guy previously. In the same scene, you also have like the guy who runs this hotel or apartment building come up and start beating the shit out of all these girls for not acting appropriately as he sees fit. So essentially, you get the impression, oh, this is the pimp of this particular building. And once again, kind of in a in character, out of character, Heston's character comes out from having gotten with the other girl, and he's like half dressed. And he starts dressing down the owner of this apartment building for being a piece of shit, for treating his women like this. And while he's doing it, he's still playing like the I'm a cop, you're not a cop, so you're going to do what I say. Otherwise, shit's going to get real bad for you. While he's protecting these women. And what's ridiculous is because even as it's going on, the one girl he slept with, who used to be the companion to the victim, she's like, he's not actually that bad. There's a lot worse out there that we could have.
Right, but still, Thorn's instinct is to protect the ladies, and that was another one of those human moments where I love the way it was done too, because he's basically threatening to kill this guy, but not in so many words. He's like snapping his gun holster onto his belt as he's saying, like, "We don't have a problem here, do we, Charlie?" It's great.